Okay, Jennifer, you can see that we're a fun bunch out here in District 5550. So I want to thank you very much for joining us tonight. And I'm very happy to introduce you. So I'm going to start with this. Jennifer E. Jones, a member of the Rotary Club of Windsor, Roseland, Ontario, Canada, has been nominated to become Rotary International's president for 2022-23, a groundbreaking selection that will make her the first woman to hold that office in the organization's 115-year history. Woohoo!
Yay.
And now let's take a look at what led to Jennifer's being selected for this amazing role. Jennifer's stellar career in media and her voluntary community service in her hometown of Windsor, Ontario, was the foundation for her becoming one of Rotary International's most recognized communicators. Since she joined Rotary in 1997, she has served in many leadership roles in her club, in her district, and at the RI level. Jennifer served as Vice President of Rotary International in 2016-2017. She played a leading role in Rotary's rebranding effort as chair of the Strengthening Rotaries Advisory Group. She was promotions chair for the 2019 Rotary International Convention in Hamburg, Germany. She is co-chair of the End Polio Now, Make History Today campaign to raise $150 million. Jennifer is currently a Rotary Foundation trustee, and she recently led a successful Rotary Response Telethon, which raised critical funds for COVID-19 relief and was viewed by over 65,000 people. Jennifer and her husband, Nick Krajakich, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. Nick is a family physician and they are champions of the Rotary Foundation. They share a passion for Rotary, as well as many other interests, travel, cycling, golf, and the thirst for adventure, I hear. I was personally pleased, Jennifer, to learn that you and Nick reached the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, Africa in 2019. I accomplished that very many years before you, so that was kind of exciting to hear. As the first woman to be nominated to be RI president, Jennifer understands how important it is to follow through on Rotary's diversity, equity, and inclusion statement, and I would like to quote her. I believe that diversity, equity, and inclusion begins at the top, and for us to realize growth in female leadership and members under the age of 40, these demographics need to see their own reflection in leadership. I will champion double-digit growth in both categories while never losing sight of our entire Rotary family. And a quote from Jennifer about Rotary's action plan as a catalyst for increasing Rotary's impact, especially during these historic times. Silver linings rise out of the most challenging circumstances. Using metric-driven goals, I will harness this historic landscape to innovate, educate, and communicate opportunities that reflect today's reality. Fellow Rotarians, let's give a warm Rotary welcome to Jennifer Jones.
Thank you for the very, very lovely introduction, very kind words. And it is a joy to be able to spend some time tonight with fellow Canadians. This is awesome. I have been on Zoom calls for the past, well, we've all been on Zoom calls. It's a Zoom pandemic, I think, to many places in the world, but I haven't had a lot of time to spend in my own country. And so tonight, it is a pleasure to be able to be with you all in 5550. And Governor Dan, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this and to joining along with Bob and Brenda in the presentations tonight. And Patty, thanks for all the technical support that I know you're providing behind the scenes here as well. So as I said, it's just an awesome opportunity to be able to share some thoughts with all of you this evening. And more than anything, quite honestly, I want to get to the question and answer period, which I know we're going to do at the end of this, because I'd love for this to be a bit more of a dynamic dialogue. And I'd love to be able to answer questions or hear your thoughts as we spend some time together. I don't want it to just be one way. I'd rather hear from you as well. So, but I do have some thoughts to share kind of about where we're at right now in our organization, some thoughts about where we're going and some of the things that we're confronting during this COVID pandemic as we all went into collective lockdown last March. It's hard to believe this many months have gone by, but they have. And one of the silver linings was just mentioned. One of the silver linings, that and unprecedented, I think, are probably the two most overused words or phrases since we've gone into lockdown. But I just lost my thought. Oh my gosh. Silver linings. Sorry. One of the silver linings, obviously, is being able to sort of, be able to connect with people from far-reaching corners of our world. But it really has shown us that as an organization, our ability to adapt has been so completely profound. And, when we started to frame what is our new strategic plan, and I'm not sure if these are the 4 priorities of our strategic plan, I'm not sure if they're familiar to you yet, but if they're not, the 4 of them are to increase our impact, to expand our reach, to enhance our participant engagement, and the 4th, our ability to adapt. And when we were crafting that statement and the 4 priorities just over a year ago, I have to tell you that our ability to adapt was one that, as a committee, we were thinking, this is probably going to be something that's a little more internal, trying to figure out how we'd be more flexible, more nimble as an organization. And lo and behold, did we ever believe that ability to adapt would be really kind of our North Star right now. We've all had to, I know what I was going to say. We've all jumped into these virtual platforms. And one of the things I sort of giggled at a little bit is at the beginning, we just know now and we understand protocol. Everybody Zoom, and like good soldiers, we all, fall into line. We all know exactly how we're going to participate with each other. And anyway, it's just been interesting to see how quickly we have been able to adapt, and certainly getting onto Zoom platforms and other virtual platforms to be able to connect, I think for many of us has been, really a godsend, being able to, at a time when we're asked to be socially distanced from each other, to be able to be connected in such a profound way has really been quite incredible. So, I was reflecting back, and I've shared this thought with a few people about an interview that I was preparing to do a while back. And I was sitting with my brother, David, my younger brother, and we were kind of going over key messages. And every time you do an interview with the media, it's always good to sort of pre-think about what you're going to talk about, or what answers you might have to the questions you think they're going to ask. And so we were going through this exercise together. And it was a article in a magazine that was about the role of service in civil society. And out of my brother's mouth came these words. He said, "In order to live in the kind of society you want, you have to help build it." I wouldn't say that again. In order to live in the kind of society you want, you have to help build that. And I just think those are such profound words, and they tie into our Rotary vision statement, I think, hand in glove. Our vision statement, which says, "Together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves." And those last 2 words, "in ourselves," quite candidly, I think are 2 of the most profound, that lasting change within ourselves. Because we know that when we are invited into Rotary, we bring leaders in and we make better leaders. And it's that personal growth that we go through, leadership development, all of that leads to that lasting change within ourselves. So we may be, making a great difference in our community and in our community globally, but to know that we can be part of something that fundamentally enhances and has the power to change even who we are, I think that's pretty cool. And so in order to live in the kind of society you want, you have to help build it. And that's because, we do that because we're people of action. That's not just a slogan for us, people of action. It's a call to action. And, when we went into lockdown, we didn't have to tell Rotarians to be people of action. You showed us that you already were. And within days of going into lockdown, we know that Rotarians got onto virtual platforms. We were all nestled in our homes, but somehow or other, we were able to make profound changes and profound differences in our communities, both far and wide. You know, one of the first things that happened, I was sitting on the board of trustees still at that time, and one of the things that we quickly did was realize that we needed to move some money out of the World Fund of our foundation into the Disaster Response Fund. And so we took $2 million and we moved it into the Disaster Response Fund, and we put it out the next day. The grants were available, $25,000 grants, to be able to get things to the front line. PPE, ventilators, dealing with food scarcity issues. And you know, from the day that we approved transferring those funds to the dollars hitting the front line was a matter of literally 3 or 4 days. Now, for any of you who have ever worked on a global grant or perhaps even a district grant, you know we don't work that fast. And so the ability for us to adapt and to understand that those dollars needed to move so quickly because of the life-saving ability, wow, what an amazing thing. Now, what was incredible was how quickly the dollars were accessed, and we needed to move an additional $1 million in just a couple of days later, and that too was snapped up overnight. We knew that we needed to raise more money. And at that point in time, I chatted with a couple of friends, and then I approached President Mark Maloney and our trustee chair. And I said, Gary Wong at the time, and I said, you know, I've got this idea to do a telethon, an online telethon. What would you consider letting me run with this? And they said, yeah, absolutely. Let's try it. You know, again, our ability to adapt. And so a small group of us, you know, reached out to our global network to say, tell us your stories. And we had stories that Rotarians put together, short little videos, 1 and 1.5 minute long, from literally every corner of the Rotary world. And if you had a chance to see it, you know that it was homespun, but it was really incredible to watch what people were doing and to understand that even though we were isolated, that we were part of something so much bigger than ourselves, and we remain to as to this day. So, you know, hearing stories from, you know, Rotarian doctors who were already battling the front line in Italy and then, you know, contracting COVID and recovering and telling us their story, to, you know, ER nurses in California who were Rotarians telling us what it was like on the front line, you know, to interactors and Rotaractors telling us how they were engaged right away. And so that ability to adapt, it wasn't an internal call to action. It turned out to be, I think, the thing that will define us as we go forward as an organization, that we understand that we wanted to be nimble, we wanted to be able to be flexible, to move more quickly, to do things maybe a little differently than we've done before. And man, have we been able to learn that 100 times over. So much so that, you know, as we come into what we hope to find as our new normal, I think we really need to take the lessons that we've learned and incorporate them and make sure that we don't lose what we've gained. Because as much as this has been a horrific pandemic for all of us to journey through together, and incredible loss of life and incredible loss of resource. I mean, you know, in terms of people's jobs, the economy, we've got a long way to go before things start to look normal again. But, you know, part of the normal will be when we get to engage back together again. And we need to, because, you know, first and foremost in Rotary, we know that because of the research that's done, we join and we stay for 2 exact reasons. We join and stay because of our socialization with each other, what we do, and the fellowship that and the service that we do together. These are fundamental cores of who we are, getting together in social experience and doing service for our communities and for our globe. So we need to be able to do that, but we can't lose this. We have gained so much. The comment was made while we were all waiting to start about not having to get into a car and drive for hours to get to a meeting, and that luxury of being able to see each other in ways that we just simply haven't been able to do unless we took those long drives. And, you know, quite candidly, for many people who are on this call who are in a Rotary club that maybe don't participate past your own club level, that's all you know is what happens within your own club. But we've been able to see so much more. I'm sitting here in LaSalle, Ontario, right adjacent to Windsor, Ontario. And, I didn't have to get on an airplane to come and join you guys tonight, but we get to hang out together. And that's really incredible. So I don't think we want to lose that as we go forward. I think that clubs need to be able to look at what a hybrid approach is. Maybe 2 meetings in a month. If you meet every week, maybe 2 meetings in a month are traditional, or 2 meetings in a month are in person, and one is a service project in your community. Another is a social, maybe a wine tasting or a beer tasting or a bowling night or whatever it is, because we know that when we have fun together and we get to know each other, that we want to be together. And that makes it so much harder to miss a meeting when you know that you've got good friends waiting for you to welcome you in with open arms. And obviously a time when we get to embrace and hug again, which I don't know about you, but I'm really looking forward to that. That's something that I miss a whole lot. So, these are things that we need to sort of incorporate in. So you do those in-person meetings, but then imagine if you did 1 or 2 where you bring in an outdoor speaker and someone who can come in and give you a different perspective on, what's going on in the world, or a different educational topic, or even just an opportunity to, gather like this and have dialogue with each other. I think that we've seen that we've saved a lot of money and a lot of human resource, not having to spend a lot of time traveling. And we've got to harness some of this and see, what's the best of what we've learned, and then leave the worst of what we've experienced behind. And I know that we're all looking forward to a day like that. So I do want to talk with you a little bit tonight about polio and our number one corporate priority, and in particular because it's Foundation Month. And let me take this opportunity before speaking in full about polio to say thank you. Thank you on behalf of the trustees of the foundation, Trustee Chair Ravi Ravindran, and Holger Kanak, our international president from Germany, who has been an incredible sport through all of this, broadcasting from his home in Germany, all over the world. And, at a time when he would have been probably hopscotching around and in person, getting to, up close and personal meet everyone, he's doing it like the rest of us from the confines of his home, and with a great smile on his face. And I really do respect and appreciate the way that he has been able to lead us during this time. But thank you to all of you for your support of the Rotary Foundation, for understanding that it is the economic arm, the engine of our organization that allows us to do good in the world, and so much good that we do. And, as I mentioned earlier with COVID, we put that $3 million into the disaster response fund. But to date, we have moved more than $30 million through the Rotary Foundation for global grants that are COVID related, and also more than 30 million for COVID global grants, and also the disaster response fund. And that's 30 million we've technically moved through the foundation. But I think if you start to think about it, we have probably moved countless hundreds of millions around in our world, from Rotary clubs who have just, got down to business, raised money, and put it right back into their local communities. And we've been doing that in every corner of the world, literally in every country that we're located. And so I can't even imagine what the economic impact of our actions has been. It's certainly been quite Herculean. But polio. This is something right now that, for as much as we've been at this for a long time, there's a lot of good news to share. And I think we could all use a little bit of good news right now. So let me begin with a couple of items. So this past August, we had a massive milestone, and that was the removal of Nigeria off of the endemic list, one of the 3 countries that had been remaining: Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Nigeria. And Nigeria had gone almost 4 years, over 4 years now, without a case of wild polio virus. And so in August, we were able to certify them polio-free, and that meant the entire African continent has been certified polio-free. What an incredible achievement that we, as part of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, as Rotarians, that we started this more than 30 years ago. other partners came on board, and we were able to celebrate this Herculean milestone. And, the public health infrastructure that we began more than 30 plus years ago, where our partners then joined in, the WHO, the CDC, UNICEF, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and now Gavi, the vaccine organization. We put together a public health infrastructure that exists in more than 70 countries. And with that infrastructure, we have polio workers, that thousands of them, that go out to obviously do surveillance, to do immunizations. And it's not just polio, tackling other issues and other diseases as well. So when COVID first struck, our polio workers had to pivot, and they had to become COVID workers. We were putting our immunizations on hold for just a short while, but those same workers went out doing contact tracing and surveillance for both COVID and polio at the same time. We didn't lose any ground there whatsoever. And I think that this public health infrastructure, which a couple of years ago actually allowed and helped us shut down Ebola, this is something that we need to be sharing with our friends and family, that we are part of something so much larger than us individually, that we are part of something that actually has the ability to make that kind of impact in our globe. What an incredible thing to be related to be part of. And that is something, like I said, I think we should be shouting that kind of a story from the rafters so that people know, what it is that we've been able to accomplish, and how, quite honestly, as a vaccine comes into our view, how that might play out in terms of being able to get vaccine to the front line in the areas where we already have all of these different, all of this whole polio infrastructure, and whether or not it even expands past that. But one of the really cool things that happened in, just falling on the heels of Africa becoming polio free, was that one of our Rotarians there was recognized for his efforts. And quite candidly, his efforts really on behalf of every single one of us, the 1.2 million of us around the world. And that's a story that's very cool that I want to share with you. The editor at large of Time magazine is a gentleman by the name of Jeffrey Kluger. And several years ago, probably 4 or 5, we had reached out to him to say, would you like to do a story about polio and health and Rotary? And he came back to us with, why on earth would I do that? And so we had to educate him as to the role that we had played in starting this whole entire initiative. And slowly but surely, he's become one of our most steadfast allies, so much so that he's been involved in our live stream broadcasts, and he's been at our international convention now, and is truly an exceptional ally and friend of our organization. And so when this incredible milestone happened of being able to take Nigeria off of the endemic list, he looked around for the face of this campaign and selected Dr. Tunji Funsho, who is from Nigeria. He is a cardiologist there. He is the chair of the Nigeria Polio Plus Committee, an incredible Rotarian, and someone who has been working tirelessly for decades to make sure that the children in that part of the world are all well taken care of. And he was tapped on the shoulder by Time magazine to become one of their 100 most influential people in the world this year in their magazine. And, we know that others in the past have included Oprah Winfrey, Angela Merkel, the Dalai Lama, Nelson Mandela. And here's our own Tunji Funsho, who is now held in the same regard for his incredible efforts to eradicate polio out of Africa. And I know that Tunji, when we've spoken recently, he'll be the first to tell you that he may have been selected, but he really does know and believe that he is the face of all 1.2 million Rotarians. And he is a gracious and incredible man that we're very lucky to have in our organization. So, like I said, some good news, even in the face of 2020, which I know we all want to say, bye-bye, 2020. I think it's going to be the New Year's where we're all like, get this one out of our rear view mirror and let it go goodbye. But we have had so many other things, like I've just shared with you, that have been good news. And so we do have a long way to go before things resume being normal. But I'm really glad that we have this to be able to be together and to share in good experience with each other. So I know that I think we're closing in on my time to finish speaking. So I do want to get to some questions and some answers and a little bit of dialogue. So Dan, I'm not sure if I'm going to turn it over to you or if there's questions in the chat room, how you want to handle this, but I'll throw it back to you and let you walk me through things.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Actually, I'm going to turn it over to Patty and Susan. Are there any questions from the chat?
No, there's nothing yet, but hopefully people are putting them in there if they have them.
Okay, thanks very much.
I'll answer anything. I am while we're waiting to see if any questions come in, and if nobody has any questions, it's no worry. But as we're waiting for questions to come in, I want to reflect that your district is a place that has a special spot in my heart. Recently, 2 years ago, I spent some time in Winnipeg. We had gone up to Churchill with a couple of friends to go and see the polar bears and the beluga whales, and then came back and spent about 3 or 4 days hanging out in Winnipeg, which is just such a great city. And that's the city where I began my district governor training, which would have started in, I guess, 2005. And that was the first training session that I went to, and the first sort of real glimpse at the big picture at that time. And it was a pure delight to be able to be there. And anyway, so greetings to everyone across the district. So I'll be quiet, and you let me know if there's anything that anybody wants to know about.
I have a hand. Mandy, can you put it into a chat, please? Is that?
The chat is not available at the moment on my computer.
Okay, then go ahead. Mandy has a question.
Okay. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm fantastic. And I just wanted to say I'm a huge fan of yours, and I couldn't have been more excited when the announcement came. I think you are going to represent us women very well, and so proudly. So proud to have you as a Canadian as well. So just wanted to say that.
Okay.
That's awesome.
I also love to see what your take is on bringing in young Rotarians. So I joined Rotary 3 years ago. I've been an active member. I was president in my club for 2 years as well already. And I have invited several young people to our club, but none of that has ever panned out that they've become members, and it's kind of disappointing. But I wonder what your take is on how you can kind of push through that and find out what some of those roadblocks might be.
Sure. No, it's a great question. And thanks for your energy and enthusiasm. I love it. One of the things that we do oftentimes is we encourage clubs to do an exit interview when somebody leaves, to find out, what went wrong. And I think we need to flip the switch on that one, and we need to do an entrance interview. We need to find out, what do people want from their membership? And then we need to deliver on it. And, I think we also need to take a really serious look at our clubs and make sure that they're attractive. Are we stuck in some of the traditions of the past? And I'm a traditionalist, so I'm not trying to be radical on this thought, but are there things that we do that maybe we should loosen up a little bit on? Or, I know clubs, I hear this all the time, and this is going to resonate with some of you, that, well, they've only been in the club for 6 months or a year. We can't give them the big project to do yet. They don't know enough. And it's no, if people are going to join and stay, they need to have meaningful engagement. And we need to be, like I said, we need to be asking them, what is it that you want? I talked earlier about personal growth. I know that I am a better public speaker, a better event manager, a better board member. I understand governance better. I like to say that I'm better at finances, but I know that my husband would probably argue with that part. But those are all things that we learn. And some of it's by trial and fire. Some of it, that we come in, and it's like if you're a banker and you join a Rotary club, they want to stick you into being the treasurer. That's the biggest mistake you can do. You want to do something different than what you do in your day-to-day job. You want to be able to grow as a person and then be able to bring those things that you've learned back into your vocational life. So it's a win-win on both parts. So I think that, when it comes to bringing younger members in, they need to have a meaningful experience. And so, one thing that you might entertain right now with some of those friends is, inviting them to a service project or to a social, because you know what? Sometimes our meetings just turn people off. And if you're out with folks and you're doing something and you're getting your hands dirty, you're planting trees, you're cleaning up a river, you're doing whatever it is that you do, the next time you say to somebody, hey, you want to come and join us for a bit? They know everybody, the barriers are broken down. You can sit through a lot of bad chicken dinners once you get Rotary. Like, you got to get it though, and you got to understand it. And once you get it, it's in your DNA. So I think that that's a big thing. Now, I do want to say one other thing about age. One of the things that I like to talk a lot about is that, we've been trying to get members under the age of 40 into our organization in earnest for several years now, really to nominal results. Very, very negligible. But the reality is that we need to be, in my opinion, focusing on young thinkers. That's who we need in our organization. Have you met a 25-year-old who's old? Have you met an 85-year-old who's young? That's what we need. We need people of every age. And that's that diverse perspective that we all bring to the conversation. If everybody's the same, then you know what? We look at things the same. When we have people from different age groups, from different cultures, different genders, different religions, then we challenge each other to think of things in different kinds of ways. And that's what allows us to solve the world's most pressing challenges. And that's the hallmark of who we are as an organization. People who can step up and say, we're going to eradicate a disease. We're going to change the environment. We're going to bring clean water to the world. We're going to create peace. Those aren't lofty goals for us. Those are actual real things that we believe in. And I don't know about you, but I think there's a lot of young people who are interested in wanting to be part of what it is that we sell. We just need to deliver on the brand promise.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now,
Jennifer, we have some.
yeah, I've got some more questions. So do I have time, Dan?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so Peter Neufeld asks, Jennifer, what is the outcome you would like to see as a result of your time as RI president?
Wow, that's a big picture question. Well, I think that a couple of things. One of the things that I'll be talking a lot about is our new diversity, equity, and inclusion statement. And I touched a little bit on that just in the last answer about the diverse perspective. I'm very proud to have been selected as our first female president, but I'm very cognizant of also framing it from the perspective that I was selected because I was qualified. And, that's an important distinction for me. And so when it comes to the gender conversation, which we clearly need to bring more women into the organization because, it's just good business. That's the reality of it all. But the diverse perspective aspect is really what I will be championing, talking about how we need to bring people from all different demographics into our organization. That's something fundamentally important to me that you'll hear me talking about that a lot. One of the other things, and this is because of my vocational background, I think that as a media professional, I want to increase the external exposure that we have to our organization, and have people from the outside looking in and saying, wow, this is what you guys are doing. This is really incredible. And so whether that's with partnerships, whether it's with media who are looking and shining a light on the stories of what it is that we do, these are things that I want to be able to move the needle on. Of course, increasing the demographics of women and members under the age of 40 Quite candidly, as was said in the introduction, I think, when we start to see ourselves reflected in authentic leadership, then I think we're going to move the needle in those two demographics. And, obviously I relate as a woman, and I'm not under 40, but only in Rotary can you be 53 and be considered a kid, which is a fun thing. And I say that in jest, but I do believe that I identify with our younger demographic, and it's something that I take a lot of pride in, being able to sort of bridge that either gender or age gap in many ways. So those are some of the things that I'll be focusing on in earnest. Thanks for the question.
Dan, we still good?
Yeah, one more question. There's a question there relating to how is our district doing, and I think I can wait until one of our other presenter comes up.
Okay, actually, one of the first questions that came in was from Ken Thiessen, and it's, what are the metrics the RI board will use to measure progress on our strategic plans?
Oh, that is a very good question. And quite candidly, I'm not sure that I can give you a definitive answer on it at this moment. Well, I can in several parts. I mean, if you start to break down the four key priorities that I talked about, increase our impact, expand our reach, probably as two of the key ones that have measurables behind them. Expand our reach, you can look at it from growing Rotary, grow Rotary, which is our big emphasis right now on membership. So moving the needle in terms of numbers, that's a very easy one to be able to quantify just simply by the numbers. Expand our reach also means, looking at what kind of partnerships that we're looking at in terms of outreach to other organizations. We've been working with USAID. They've given us $5 million for some COVID work in Europe. Expanding even with the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, being able to bring on Gavi, the vaccine organization. There's a lot of different relationships that are worth cultivating and building that help us to shine light again on what it is that we're doing and to grow our capacity to be able to do more. I think that one of the things that I'm quite interested in is looking at external organizations to also be contributors to our foundation, knowing that we are the incredible stewards that we are of these funds, and what that can do to leverage their own capability with the money that they have. So I think in terms of expand our reach, those are a couple of the kind of things that we're obviously going to be measuring. Increase our impact. I think that one of the things, again, during Foundation Month, we look at the actual impact that our grants are having on the front line. And one of the things that we know through Future Vision that we launched more than a decade ago, that our global grants have just gone through the roof, and the demand for grants is now in excess of the funds that we even have available. We're a product of our success in this endeavor, and so in terms of expanding that reach, we know that and increasing our impact, we know that the impact that we're making through these global grants is something that is incredibly measurable. That is something where we can see we put this in, and this is the direct result. Again, it's that incredible stewardship that we have tied into our grant process, which is something that has really quite candidly moved the needle in terms of the kind of impact that we've been able to have. So those are a couple of things. To break it down into all of the different metrics, I'm sorry that I'm not going to be able to give you a whole fulsome answer, but hopefully that's a little bit of what that looks like.
Okay, and there's a question from Nancy. Jennifer, are you working with Bill and Melinda Gates now that COVID is here?
So we have been working lockstep with them, along the way for the past several years, and our relationship with them is quite incredible. One of the things that I don't know if this is something that everyone would be familiar with, but because we have the $50 million amount that we raise annually, and the Bill and Melinda Gates then match it 2-to-1. So that means that each year we raise 50 million and they give us 100 million. So every January, a check goes into our account at Rotary for $100 million. They don't ask for an accounting of the spending. They trust us to spend the money where it needs to be spent, certainly working with our partners in UNICEF and the WHO for that matter. But the relationship with them is so strong that they understand that we are the incredible stewards of the funds that they have, and that we're able to leverage our ability together to do so much more. And so, yes, conversations happen with them all of the time about the landscape of our planet, the things that are going on, what they're doing, what we're doing, and how we can better harness our relationship. Right now, we're laser focused on polio. We need to get across the finish line. And that is something that we will continue to focus on until we do cross the finish line and make sure that that's done. And that will be hand in glove with them. They came along after we started it, but we are certainly incredible partners in this journey.
Great. Dan?
Jennifer, I want to thank you very much for partaking and agreeing to come and talk with us tonight virtually. Your comments about COVID and how we had to change rapidly supports the fact that we definitely needed to change as an organization to try new things and ensure that it would work. Thank you very much for that. And I wish you all the best in your run through as president.
Well, thank you. And thank you for letting me hang out with you guys tonight. This has been a treat, and I'll stay on the line for a little bit more as the other presentations begin.
I appreciate that.
Thanks, everybody.